I knew the exact moment my career at Oak Ridge Freight was dead on the table. It was not when the quarterly projections dipped, and it was not when my late husband Donald's portrait was moved from the main lobby to the break room hallway next to the fire extinguisher. No, the death certificate of my 15-year tenure was signed the second Chloe walked into the boardroom. Wearing shoes that cost more than our forklift drivers make in a month, clapping her hands like she was summoning servants at a brunch she did not pay for herself. She had that specific kind of master of business administration energy, the kind that uses words like synergy and disruptive because she did not know how to actually negotiate a fuel surcharge with a union representative in Detroit. I sat at the far end of the mahogany table, nursing a cup of black coffee that tasted like battery acid and resignation. I had been running the contracts and compliance division for over a decade. I knew where the bodies were buried because I was the one who drafted the liability waivers for the shovels. Chloe, my daughter-in-law and the newly appointed chief operating officer, did not look at me. She looked through me. She was busy projecting a slide deck that was 90% stock photos of diverse people shaking hands and 10% actual data, which happened to be wrong. She was talking about pivoting to a tech-first logistics paradigm. We haul gravel, steel pipes and heavy auto parts, Chloe. We do not need a mobile application. We need commercial drivers who do not fail their random drug screenings. The legacy infrastructure, Chloe said, her eyes landing on me like a predator, is holding us back. We have redundancies. Too much paperweight. The conference room went quiet. The other department heads, men my late husband Donald had hired, and whom I had personally bailed out of compliance nightmares, stared blankly at their notepads. Cowards. They knew legacy infrastructure was code for Valerie. They knew paperweight meant the woman who actually read shipping regulations before signing. I did not flinch. I just took a slow, deliberate sip of that terrible coffee. That is interesting, Chloe, I said calmly, considering this legacy infrastructure saved us $3 million in fines last quarter. I caught a hidden clause in the disposal vendor's renewal agreement that made us liable for their negligence. But please, tell me about the application. Chloe's smile did not falter, but her eyes hardened. It was that frozen glare of someone who had never heard the word no. We appreciate the history, Valerie, truly. But Donald is gone, and this company needs to evolve. We will be scheduling individual meetings next week. I think you and I need a special block of time. Alignment. That is the corporate term for get your cardboard box ready. I felt a cold knot in my stomach, not of fear, but of a deep, simmering rage. It was not just the disrespect. It was the active erasure of my history. I was not just Donald's widow. I was the one who stayed late at the office when Donald was undergoing chemotherapy. I was the one who negotiated the merger with the private equity firms 3 years ago when our cash flow was so tight, we were paying our tire suppliers in promises. I was the one who kept the lights on, while Chloe was busy curating her social media feed to look like a hard-working mom, despite having 2 full-time nannies and a personal assistant for her miniature poodle. I was keeping the entire business afloat day and night. The meeting dragged on for another hour of corporate buzzword bingo. We talked about holistic approaches, drilling down and picking low-hanging fruit. I stopped listening and started observing. I watched the way our chief financial officer, Peter, refused to make eye contact with me. I watched the way the human resources director, a spineless woman named Sandra, whom I had personally mentored, was furiously typing messages on her phone under the table. They were all in on it. This was not a business consultation. It was a coronation, and I was the old regime waiting for the guillotine. When the meeting adjourned, Chloe made a point of stopping by my chair. She smelled of expensive vanilla perfume, an unearned confidence. She placed a manicured hand on my shoulder, a gesture meant to look comforting, but felt like she was checking for a pulse so she could call the coroner. I know this transition is hard, Valerie, she whispered, loud enough for the lingering executives to hear. Change is scary at your age, but we have to think about the shareholders. We have to trim the excess fat. Trim the excess fat. I stood up, smoothing the skirt of my navy suit. I was 45 years old. I ran 5 miles every single morning, had a mind like a steel trap, and a tolerance for nonsense that was currently redlining. I agree, Chloe, I said, offering her a polite smile that did not reach my eyes. The shareholders deserve real value, and efficiency is key. I look forward to our scheduled chat next week. I walked out of that conference room with my head held high, the sound of her high heels clicking behind me like a countdown clock. She thought she was hunting me. She thought I was just the grieving widow, holding onto a ghost job. She did not know that I was the architect of the very floor she was standing on, and she had no idea that I had installed a trap door. I went back to my office, the corner suite that had belonged to Donald for years, and locked the door. I did not cry or panic. I sat down at my desk, unlocked the bottom drawer, and pulled out a single red folder. Inside was a document I had drafted 3 years ago during the acquisition panic. The board of directors was terrified of a takeover and begged me to secure the executive team's loyalty. They signed everything I put in front of them without reading it, too busy worrying about stock prices. I opened the folder to page 14. The paragraph was short, dry, and formatted in 11-point font. To me, it read like poetry. It read like a loaded weapon. Chloe wanted to trim the fat. Fine, we would talk. But first, I needed her to feel safe. I needed her to believe she had won. I turned to my computer and saw the first email from Human Resources. The subject read, "Urgent, policy updates and signature required." The email from Sandra was a masterpiece of corporate violence. It was flagged high importance and contained a 40-page document titled Employee Handbook and Compensation Restructuring. The body was sickeningly sweet, asking me to sign by the end of the day. I did not sign it or reply. Instead, I printed the document. The printer in the hallway hummed to life, churning out pages. I stood there, watching the paper stack up, feeling the eyes of junior analysts on me. The office atmosphere had shifted overnight. It is amazing how quickly a workplace turns hostile when the new leader decides someone is out. People I had hired were suddenly fascinated by their screens. When I walked by, they could smell the blood in the water. I took the paper back to my desk, grabbed my red pen, and started reading. It was a clear demotion disguised as a lateral move. There was a clause for title renegotiation, another for the revocation of seniority bonuses, and a clause regarding at-will termination, stripping executive officers of grievance rights if their roles were deemed redundant. Chloe had paid some overpriced consultant to write it specifically to target me. It was a bear trap painted to look like a welcome mat. I circled the clauses and annotated the margins with labor laws and case citations. I spent 3 hours dissecting her vision. Then I scanned it, saved it to my personal encrypted drive, and shredded the physical copy. I was not going to give them the satisfaction of a marked-up draft. I would give them silence. At 2 in the afternoon, the intercom buzzed. All hands meeting in the warehouse, attendance mandatory. I walked down to the warehouse. The air changed as soon as you crossed the threshold from the carpeted offices to the concrete floor. It smelled of diesel exhaust, dust, and cardboard. This was the heart of the company. These were the men and women who actually moved the freight. They looked tired, leaning against wooden pallets, wearing neon safety vests stained with grease. Chloe stood on a makeshift stage made of wooden pallets, holding a microphone. She had swapped her high heels for brand new white sneakers, a calculated attempt to look down to earth that only made her look like a tourist. "Who is excited about the third quarter?" she shouted, her voice echoing badly in the cavernous space. Silence. A forklift beeped in the distance. "I know change is tough," she continued, undeterred by the total lack of enthusiasm. "We are streamlining. We are cutting the dead weight so you can move faster. We are introducing a new mobile application that tracks your break times to the second, ensuring maximum efficiency." A murmur of discontent rippled through the crowd. Tracking breaks to the second was not efficiency. That was prison rules. I saw Hank, the warehouse foreman who had been with us for 20 years, shake his head and spit on the floor. Hank used to come to Donald's backyard barbecues. He caught my eye, and for a second I saw pity in his expression. He knew. Then Chloe dropped the hammer. She gestured to a large projection screen behind her chair. "Here is the new organizational chart for our regional operations." The chart popped up. It was a colorful web of boxes. At the top in a giant gold box was Chloe, Chief Operating Officer. Below her was a clutter of new titles like Vice President of Synergy. I scanned the chart for my name, Director of Contracts and Compliance. It was not there. I looked closer. At the very bottom, in a gray detached box floating in the void, was a title, Legacy Consultant, Interim. The breath left my lungs. She had not just demoted me, she had publicly ghosted me. She had put my career in a gray box labeled Interim and projected it on a 20-foot screen in front of the entire company. I felt the heat rise up my neck, and I could feel the eyes of the warehouse crew shifting toward me. Chloe did not look at me. She was too busy pointing at the gold box with her own name in it. This structure, she chirped, allows for rapid decision-making without getting bogged down in historical bottlenecks. Historical bottleneck. That was me. I did not storm the stage. I did not scream. I did something that scared them more. I took out my phone, snapped a high-resolution photo of the screen, and then turned around and walked out. I went to the printer room on the executive floor, trying to maintain a calm demeanor despite the anger boiling inside me. The hallway was unusually quiet, as if everyone was holding their breath. I noticed the new organization charts were already being taped to the walls by a nervous-looking assistant. My name was gone from the directories, replaced by blank white space. I walked back to my office and slowly started packing my personal belongings. The framed photo of Donald and me in Hawaii, a crystal paperweight from my 10th anniversary, and my favorite ergonomic mouse. Each item represented years of dedication and hard work that were being erased with a few mouse clicks. Sandra from Human Resources appeared in my doorway, holding a plastic clipboard like a shield. She had always been conflict avoidant, which was why she was perfect for Chloe's dirty work. "Valerie," she squeaked, "did you get my email?" "I did, Sandra," I replied, not looking up. "We need that signature today," she said, her voice trembling. "Chloe wants to finalize the payroll transition and ensure the system updates are completed without any delays." I placed a coffee mug into the box. "I am sure she does, but I have concerns about the new termination clauses. I will need my personal attorney to review them before I sign anything." Sandra went pale. "Valerie, we are family. We do not need attorneys to settle these things." I looked at her, refusing to let her off the hook. Chloe just put me in a gray box titled Interim in front of 200 warehouse workers. "Sandra, the family reunion is over. If this is a business, then we will conduct it like one." "It is just a restructuring," she stammered. "If you do not sign, Chloe might take other steps." "Let her," I said. "Tell Chloe to take all the steps she wants." Sandra fled, a frantic messenger running back to the Queen. They thought I was packing because I was conceding defeat, but I was just clearing the decks. I was not moving out. I was digging in. I sat down at my computer. It was time to retrieve the weapon. The next morning, the silence in my office was deafening. My calendar was completely blank. No meetings, no reminders. I tried to log into the operations dashboard to track freight movements. The screen blinked. Error 4003. Access denied. They were scrubbing me. It was the digital equivalent of changing the locks on the office doors. It was petty, amateurish, and exactly what I expected from Chloe. She thought cutting my access rendered me powerless. She thought my power came from seeing where the trucks were. She was wrong. My power did not come from the live feed. It came from the foundation. I opened the folder labeled Personal. They had not locked me out of my desktop workstation yet. I navigated through the nested folders to our 2021 defense files. 3 years ago, a private equity firm tried to gut us. They wanted to sell the fleet and lease back the warehouses. Donald was sick and too weak to fight. The board was in a panic, ready to sell us out. I stepped in, drafted the poison pill defense, and structured the executive contracts to make firing us too expensive for the raiders. I wrote new employment agreements for all executives, and I wrote one for myself. I found my executed 2021 agreement. I scrolled to Section 12C, titled Involuntary Termination. The language was precise. It stated that in the event of involuntary termination, without documented cause following restructuring, the employee was entitled to an immediate transfer of 10% of the company's equity. Furthermore, the employee would retain board voting rights for 24 months. The board signed it back then because they were terrified of the raiders. They never imagined a world where they would be the ones firing me. Chloe did not know it existed. She was too busy picking out marble for her office to read the contracts in the vault. I checked the digital signature. It was valid and notarized. I saved a copy to my phone, a USB drive, and my personal email. Then I updated my profile on the internal investor portal, linking my personal email. My door opened. It was Toby, the IT assistant, holding a laptop. Toby was a nice kid whose department budget I had defended last winter when the previous chief financial officer tried to slash their funding. "Hey, Valerie," Toby mumbled, looking down. "Chloe's office said we need to cycle your hardware. They want you to use this loaner Chromebook." He held out a battered device. I smiled at him, showing no anger. "It is okay, Toby. I understand. You have a job to do." I unplugged my workstation and handed it over. I swapped it for the junk Chromebook. The screen was dim and the processing speed was painfully slow, a humiliation designed to make me quit. But I needed them to fire me. If I resigned, Section 12C was void. I needed Chloe to pull the trigger. My phone buzzed. It was a text message from Chloe. "Valerie, can you come to my office? We need to have that chat now." Chloe's office was a glass fishbowl on the top floor, offering a view of the shipping yard. She had replaced the frosted glass with clear panes because she wanted everyone to see her being important. I walked in with nothing but my phone. I did not need to take notes. I was there to make history. Chloe sat behind a massive white marble desk that looked like a modern altar. She did not stand up. She gestured at a low-slung, uncomfortable chair opposite her, designed to make visitors feel small. "Valerie," she said, her voice dripping with patronizing softness. "Thanks for coming up. Close the door, would you?" I closed the glass door, completely muffling the office noise. I could see the accounting department turning toward us. "How are you holding up?" she asked. "I know the organizational chart changes were abrupt." "I am fine, Chloe," I said. "I am just curious about the operational logic of removing the compliance director in the middle of a vendor renegotiation." She sighed, smoothing her designer jacket. "See, that is just it. You are thinking about the weeds. I am thinking about the entire ecosystem. We are moving to an automated, intelligence-driven compliance model using proprietary software. It handles audits in seconds and does not require salary increases or medical benefits. We do not need manual oversight anymore." "So, a computer program is going to negotiate liability caps with union representatives in the middle of winter?" I asked, raising an eyebrow. Chloe's smile tightened. "We are restructuring, Valerie. The board supports this." And frankly, she leaned forward, lowering her voice. "I think you are burned out. I think you have been carrying Donald's ghost for too long. It is time for you to rest. Go to Europe." The condescension was thick. She was firing me and framing it as a retreat. "So, this is an official termination," I stated. "We prefer to call it a transition," she corrected. "But my employment is ending, and it is completely involuntary," I pressed. "Well, yes," she admitted, "but we have prepared a severance package of 2 weeks of pay for every year of service." I kept my face neutral, though my heart was hammering with the excitement of the trap snapping shut. I needed her to say the words. "Chloe," I said softly, forcing a look of vulnerability. "Is this because of my performance? Did I do something wrong? Is there documented cause?" Chloe laughed. "Oh, of course not, Valerie. You are a workhorse. This is not about cause. It is purely structural. We just want to go in a different direction. So, the official documentation will state." "This is a termination without cause," I pressed. "Absolutely," she said, her smile returning now that the hard part was done. "I have already instructed Human Resources to file it as a standard restructuring due to redundancy. There is no cause. You can collect unemployment, keep your dignity, and enjoy your retirement." "I appreciate that," I said, maintaining my mask of quiet defeat. "Could you put that specific language in the separation letter? I want to ensure my records are clean." "It is already in there," she said, sliding a manila folder across the table. "Just sign the acknowledgement and we can process your check." I opened the folder. The notice of separation stated my employment was terminated effective immediately due to restructuring, and that it was not for cause. It was the key to the kingdom. "I will not sign the waiver just yet," I said. "I need to review it. But I acknowledge receipt." Chloe rolled her eyes. "If you do not sign, we cannot release the funds." "I understand," I said. "But I am terminated effective right now, correct?" "Yes, effective immediately. You can hand over your badge." I stood up, took the folder, and walked out of the glass box. I walked to the elevator and descended to the lobby. I handed my badge to Mr. Jenkins. He looked sad, his shoulders slumped. I had helped his son get an apprenticeship in our maintenance shop years ago, and he had always been loyal to Donald and me. "I am sorry, Mrs. Miller," he whispered, looking around. "Do not worry, Mr. Jenkins," I said with a warm smile. "Keep watching the registry. It is going to get interesting." I sat in my car in the corner of the parking lot, the Illinois heat rising through the windshield. I opened my drafts folder on my phone. The email was addressed to the board and council, with Chloe copied. I attached the scanned agreement and the photo of the notice. "Dear board members, as of 2:30 this afternoon, I have been involuntarily terminated without cause. Pursuant to Section 12C of my agreement executed on August 14, 2021, this triggers the equity transfer. I am exercising my right to the immediate transfer of a 10% equity stake in Oak Ridge Freight. I am also assuming my position as a voting board member. Please prepare the share certificates within 48 hours. I pressed send, and the departing swoosh was pure satisfaction. I sat in my car in the corner of the parking lot, waiting. It took exactly 14 minutes. My phone rang, displaying the name of Howard, the chairman of the board. Howard was 70 years old, a man who feared shareholder litigation more than death. "Valerie," Howard's voice was shaking over the line. "Is this real?" "Hello, Howard," I said, leaning back in my chair. "Is what real? The email, the contract. The legal department is looking at it now. I did not realize you had written such a clause for yourself." I was the strategy lead at the time, Howard. I structured the contracts, and I was not going to leave myself unprotected. "Does Chloe know?" he whispered. "She was copied on the email," I replied. "But knowing her, she probably has not checked her messages since she escorted me out." "Valerie, 10% is a massive block," Howard stammered. "Can we discuss a cash settlement?" "I do not want cash, Howard. I want to save this company. Chloe is driving us off a cliff, and as a major shareholder, I now have a fiduciary duty to stop her actions." By the time I got home, my phone was melting down with missed calls. I did not answer Chloe. I let her scream into the void. At 7 in the evening, a specialized corporate courier delivered a letter from our general counsel, Lawrence Vance. The letter confirmed the validity of the agreement and acknowledged my status as a 10% voting shareholder. An emergency board meeting was scheduled for 9 the next morning via video conference. At 9 the next morning, I sat at my dining room table wearing my best Navy suit. The screen connected, and the grid populated with the 7 members of the board. Chloe was in her glass office, looking frazzled. Her eyes were red, and she looked like she had spent the night crying. "This is blackmail." Chloe screamed as soon as I joined. "Howard, tell her this is fraud. She hid that contract." "I did not hide anything," I said calmly. "It was approved by the compensation committee." "You voted for it, Howard." Howard rubbed his temples. "Valerie is right, Chloe. The contract is valid, and she is now a major shareholder." "Which brings me to the agenda," I said. "Under Delaware General Corporation Law Section 220, I am formally demanding an immediate, full inspection of the corporation's ledger, accounting records, and minutes of the board of directors." Chloe went pale. "You cannot just demand to see everything." Under Delaware General Corporation Law Section 220, as a holder of 10% of the voting stock, I have an absolute right to inspect the books for any proper purpose, I said, and my purpose is investigating potential waste and management misconduct. Actually, I had already run a preliminary search of the recent transactions. In the ledger, I found that Chloe had been routing $50,000 in consulting fees to a shell company registered under her brother's name. She had also been expensing personal family vacations accounts as client dinners. It was clear fraud, and it constituted documented cause for removal. I slide the paper toward my camera. I am calling for a motion of no confidence and the immediate removal of Chloe Miller as Chief Operating Officer for cause, based on breach of fiduciary duty and financial misconduct. "I second the motion," said Lawrence Vance, the General Counsel. Chloe gasped, looking at her screen in utter betrayal. "Lawrence, you work for me." "I work for the corporation, Chloe," Lawrence said, his face grim. Howard called the vote. "All in favor of removing Chloe Miller for cause, raise your hand." One by one, every director on the screen raised their hand. Chloe's mouth fell open. She looked around her glass office, realizing that the transparency she loved so much meant everyone could see her career crumbling. "The motion carries," Howard said. You are terminated, Chloe. She slammed her laptop shut, and her video feed went black. The administrative cleanup began immediately. I did not take my old corner office back, but I remained on the board of directors to oversee the transition. I killed the brake tracking application and terminated the contract of the overpriced consultants. A week later, Chloe slowly cleared out her glass office. I met her in the quiet break room while I was making tea. She was carrying a heavy cardboard box of her things, wearing flat shoes instead of her usual designer high heels. "You planned this," she hissed. "You stole my company." "It was never your company, Chloe," I said. "You were just borrowing the keys, and you drove it like a stolen vehicle. Your husband would be ashamed of what you did." She flinched and walked away, her shoes making no sound on the carpet. That evening, I drove to the cemetery and sat by Donald's grave. I poured a small amount of red wine onto the grass. "I fixed it, Donald," I whispered. "The drivers are happy, the company is safe, and I own 10% of the whole thing." I drove back home with all the car windows rolled down, feeling a deep sense of peace. I was no longer the grieving widow or the legacy employee. I was Valerie, major shareholder, and no one was ever going to put me in a gray box again.